Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Main Event Memories presented by ProWrestlingWire.net. Of course, I am the host, Rick Del Santo, the professor, if you will. And we've got a very special guest today. We got a very special episode today. We're going to be diving deep into probably one of the most hated sitcoms of all time. But that's not for me. That's not for my guest. Anthony Brennan, wrestling historian, is here with me. And we're going to be talking famous wrestling sitcom Learning the Ropes, which everybody seems to despise this TV show. Even growing up in the 80s growing up in the 1980s now, Anthony, wouldn't you say this? It was sitcom heaven?
Yeah, especially there was a lot of syndicated sitcoms too, like
Yeah.
Small Wonder and She's the Sheriff. So a lot of
Yeah.
independent networks were just pumping out sitcoms left and right. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd agree. It was a very innocent time, I think.
Yeah. I think that you can. Yeah, once we dive into this show. So I think when I told a couple people that I was going to be doing an episode on this, some people just wanted nothing to do with it. And some people thought it was, oh, God, I can't believe it. I said, hey, man, I was a huge fan of this show as a kid, as cheesy as it was, but this aired from 1988 to 1989, one season that lasted 26 episodes, and before got canned, and I was so obsessed with professional wrestling that I would eat anything up that was professional wrestling wise, whether it be sitcoms when when the WWF stars aired on the A Team. I was all about wanting to watch it. Anything that was related to wrestling, I would watch, no matter how bad. I don't think I realized as a kid how bad some of this stuff actually was.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So on my end, I was very disappointed in it when I watched it at 13 years old.
Yeah.
So my memory of it was, even though I watch every episode, that it was probably like one of the worst shows ever on TV. And then when I went back and looked at it, I thought it was bad, but I didn't think it was historically bad. The show made sense. It went together well. It had timing. So it was bad, but not as bad as I remembered, because when I was little, I wanted it to be amazing. And then looking at it from that perspective, I'm like, okay, it wasn't that bad, just very boring.
Yeah, it was. There was definitely a lot of boredom. So I'm going to read this from Wikipedia. Learning the Ropes was a Canadian sitcom. It aired on CTV in Canada and syndicated in the United States from September 1988 to March 1989. The show starred football legend Lyle Alzado. Okay, and he was playing a teacher.
Yes.
Robert Randall, excuse me, who worked as a professional wrestler at night. Of course, the masked maniac. Now, this what was great about this series, it featured the stars of the NWA from 1988 and 1989, which to me was probably one of the most amazing rosters as of professional wrestlers growing up. I thought it was amazing. So there was so many great guys and so many great memories of some of the stars that came on here, but some of it, man, I watched some of these episodes back. I didn't get to watch the whole series, but I got to watch a bunch of episodes while going back and doing some research for this. And it was, while it was cheesy and corny at times, there was so much fun watching this show. There's no real good high quality rips of these shows. It's all really bad quality up on YouTube.
So I look back and so Dr. Death Steve Williams performed the wrestling as the Masked Maniac, and Lyle made it look a lot like him. And as you mentioned, he was a legendary football player who actually tried to make a comeback after the show was canceled. And he was considered good enough to play, but his age and injuries, it kind of forced him off of seeing younger players. And then, of course, about 2 years later, he died of cancer because of his steroids abuse when he was a professional football player. But this was him trying his hand at acting.
Yep. Well, I mean, I think a lot of guys at that time period, there was a lot of crossover type stuff in the 1980s where people would try to do stuff like that. I mean, especially guys that would like retire from sports and stuff like that, you know. So this guy, he died May 14th, 1992. So this was, I think it was a 4-year gap between the time the show ended and the time that, so between 89 and 92. Alzado, of course, was the legendary, played with Jesus Christ, the Oakland Raiders, of course. Excuse me. Sorry, my eyes are bad. I'm trying to read my notes here. And he played for, also with the Cleveland Browns, and he won a Super Bowl championship with the Oakland Raiders as well.
Yeah, he was a legend. I remember him as a little boy with the Raiders, and he was tough and crazy. And I thought he was good on the show. No worse than like Alex Karras was on Webster. He looked the part. He was very likable, very photogenic. And I thought he was a very good straight man. I mean, you needed funny people around him. He wasn't going to carry a show, but he was good. He was good. He was such a likable guy. I thought that I liked him as a star.
So basically, the show was based around a single father. He worked as a private school teacher and vice principal, and he also moonlighted as a professional wrestler, as we stated at the early. And he, of course, the wife had taken off and decided to go to Europe to find herself or something like that, and left him with the 2 kids. He had 2 teenage kids that were high school students. It's Nicole Stoffman, who played his daughter Ellen, and Yannick Bison played Mark Randall, and Mark ended up going on to star in a lot more actually, in his adult life. In the he decided to do the Murdoch Mysteries. He's been playing in that show since 2008, which is a mystery show. So he's been around for quite some time doing a lot of acting. And Nicole, she turned into an author. And she continued to act basically through the 80s into the 90s, and hasn't been active since 2000. But she was also known for, like you said, Degrassi Junior High, which was also a pretty popular show for guys our age, probably around, I guess, I'd have to say in the mid 90s, early 90s, right? Yeah, probably around. Yeah, exactly. So
mid 80s.
And that, and that was, of course, featured on PBS back in the day as well.
Yes, it was.
Right? So,
Yep. And I thought that so the boy, the character, he was very much like Kirk Cameron from Growing Pains. You know, the kind of the kid who, the character. You know, a good kid who's got a good heart that sometimes plays with danger, but at the end of the day, he tries to do the right thing. I think Kirk Cameron was an amazing actor. It's a very hard role to play, and to be honest, I think that at that time of his career, that actor was not up for it. I just think that he was probably the weakest cast member, but probably had the most to do. Because you need to be a really good actor to play a really conflicted teen that goes back and forth. And I think he struggled in that role.
Yeah, well, I thought that he was pretty good at what he did. Trying to play like you said, he was very kind of Kirk Cameron-ish as far as like Mike Seaver, in Growing Pains. So basically very it was him who was trying to be a ladies' man, but trying to be a smart ass at the same time, and kind of slacker-ish, type kid. And sometimes it just
not Seaver.
It was like, I guess you consider the Canadian version, it just really wasn't as convincing. You know what I mean?
No,
for numerous reasons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The writing too, probably. Yeah.
Well,
and
then the writing was pretty terrible.
Yeah, I found it was very generic and formulated, and that made for very generic and formulated characters too. And as I told Rick off there, the problem is too, when you have a very generic storyline and you don't have a ultra charismatic scene stealer like Jimmy Walker or Gary Coleman, it's a bad combination. without having good scripts or a real scene stealing actor. So that was a bad combo.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it. This was September 1988 is when it first started airing. So I think maybe it was trying to cash in on, Ted Turner's trying to cash in on his purchase of Jim Crockett Promotions, maybe, and trying to. Yeah, so he was always trying to be very similar to what WWE was doing, crossing into the mainstream, trying with different aspects. And this was his attempt at something like a sitcom. And I mean, every time that Ted and WCW attempted it, it failed miserably, right? I mean, this is definitely a perfect example because it's probably one of the worst talked about sitcoms in the history of television.
Yeah, and I think it's expectations. Like I don't, as I mentioned, it's bad, but it wasn't historically bad. I think if it was worse, like really silly, over the top, I probably remember more of it, but I just remember there's a lot of bad episodes. But no, that is true. And then there was the neighbor who, if anybody, I'm going back to 80s pop culture, reminded me of Charlie from the show Empty Nest. And he was like, he was the pain in the ass.
Which was Joe Isuzu, right? The guy that played Joe Isuzu.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of his actual name. Yeah. But he was also in a number. Isuzu. Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name offhand. But but do you realize there's always in sitcoms, or there's a lot of sitcoms like this, especially in 1980s, there's always that neighbor that just has full access to the house and just walk in like they're part of the family, or they have full on permission that just walk in like.
Yeah, but the show kind of was in on the joke because he would go into the fridge and start taking their food and start cooking. So it's almost like the show was doing that little wink and the nod to the audience. Because they were so and they would comment on it, like why you just come walking in. I felt that he was I think it was Barry something. Going back watching, I thought he was the best actor in the show. I thought he had really good comedic timing, and I'm not saying it'd be worth sitting through 23 minutes to get his laughs, but he was making me laugh.
Yeah. So, anyways, we his name was Barry Stevens. He played Dr. Jerry Larson. So I remember the actor specifically, actually. So let's talk about some of the wrestlers that appeared in the episode.
Yep.
So okay, as you mentioned, Dr. Death Steve Williams, he actually did the wrestling parts for the Masked Maniac, aka Lyle Alzado.
Yes.
Actually, I have a note here saying that he did sustain injuries during filming. What the extent of those injuries, I'm not exactly certain.
Yep.
But he would go in there and he'd wrestle. And basically, and the running gag with Lyle Alzado, a.k.a. the Masked Maniac, was that he wasn't a very good wrestler and you would always get the shit kicked out of him. Yeah. Basically, he was a job guy. And they would always... Yeah. There'd always be puns and make fun of him for the most part throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
So,
yep. And from what I recently read, too, that they actually would perform matches in front of a live TV audience. So it was presented as a live match. That way they'd get more honest reactions. So it wasn't
they recorded them during live TV tapings and stuff.
Yeah. So they got some authentic reactions. So there was some. I know that Ricky Morton was on, Jimmy Garvin, Dick Murdoch. A question I was going to pose to you, and I think I have I think I know why they did this, but J.J. Dillon was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Cornette and Paulie Dangerously were not. And I have an idea. I want to get your kind of feedback on that, why they would have Dillon and not those two super charismatic guys. And I kind of think I know why.
My question was Paulie in there at the time for the National Wrestling Alliance? Because he came in
with the New Midnights, with the original Midnight Express. So they were feuding with the original Midnight Express were feuding with Jim Cornette's guys at the time. So he was there.
That's interesting. That's interesting because I thought it was slightly before. That's just what I thought.
No, maybe that's when it kicked off, but he was there in '89 as well.
Yeah. Well, he was there in '89. I remember because they came over from the AWA.
Yeah.
So, and I remember in '88 they were still feuding with the Midnight Rockers and the AWA, and then when that feud wrapped up, they came over to probably I thought it was sometime in '89 that they came over to WCW.
It was I did the research recently. It was actually fall of '88, so it was right around this time.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's also, if you look at it, the show aired from let's see here. What did I say it was before? It aired from September '88 to '89 to spring of '89, March of '89. So it's possible all these shows were already filmed earlier in the year before they came, because a lot of that stuff was already probably in the can. So they probably
that's a great point.
Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. There's possible that happened. So another list I have here, of course, Ric Flair was on the show. I remember this happening as well.
Yeah.
Tully Blanchard, he made an appearance on. Ron Garvin was on the show. The Road Warriors, I remember a locker room scene with the Mass Maniac, and I believe the Sun was on the show. The Sun, or in the locker room with the Luger.
Yep.
Sweet Stan Lane was on there. Larry Zbyszko. And of course, you mentioned Ricky Morton. One of the most important, in my opinion, one of the greatest episodes is when Yannick, the son, I'm trying to remember his damn name on the show. Hang on. It's Mark. Okay, it is Mark. Was playing guitar in a rock and roll band, in this high school band. And Ricky Morton was, of course, from the Rock and Roll Express, who played guitar, and him and Ricky were jamming, and then he got Ricky to jam with him, and they had a phenomenal evening. And then he was very upset that Ricky didn't show up to a gig because, obviously he's on the wrestling schedule, and he thought that he was going to become this big rock star with Ricky Morton playing guitar in his band. But Ricky, he had the busy schedule of being a professional wrestler.
And the magic just wasn't there without Ricky. It was good, but it wasn't there. And then there was actually the therapist had a great line where, I was concerned because it went so well, and the therapist was cheering him on and said, "It's okay, he's not doing that good in school anyways." And I actually had a genuine real laugh when he did that. I found him really charming. I know I said that earlier, but that was a great line when he was trying to discourage him. He went to discourage him from trying to be a rock star, and he walked out encouraging him, which that's kind of the role of the pain in the ass for any place. But Ricky Morton was excellent on that show, and I thought Jimmy Garvin was really good too when he was on.
Yeah. As Precious was on the show as well. Am I wrong with Jimmy Garvin?
Yeah, she was. Yep. Jimmy Garvin just seemed like a natural actor. Just the interactions he had, but he had positive and interactions with Lyle Alzado during the show. But, not to dive into the weeds of a 22-minute episode, but he just fit seems like he fit right in on Hollywood. You know what I mean? Jimmy Garvin.
Yeah, I mean,
he was on.
I wouldn't be surprised because he was really good at what he did in the ring, and his interactions and the facials and everything that he did. He was a good actor in the form of being in professional wrestling. So, I mean, I would not be surprised that he would be very good in acting, like actual acting in a show like this. There was episodes, of course, where they would sit around and play cards at the Randall's house. Ivan Koloff was there playing cards with them. But the funny part about Ivan Koloff he was there in his gear playing cards. If you remember correctly, it was just they're in this dude's kitchen. They're in the dude's kitchen. So it was just these guys just hang out in their gear. And the was it the cheetah guy? He had the thing on his head. He was just this guy. All these guys are in their gear playing cards in the guy's kitchen.
Oh yeah,
on a regular weeknight. It was so bizarre. I thought.
A question I was going to ask you, because speaking of the Ivan Koloff episode, they were playing cards with the neighbor. What is your thoughts on the fact that the neighbor knew the secret? Because I do have a thought on that, but the neighbor knew that he was a pro wrestler even before the kids did.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know. I don't really know what to say, because it's he knew. I mean, did he know he just needed to make more income to help with the kids
he knew everything.
as like the you know what I mean? And so he was just like, man, I'll keep your secret. I know life's rough out there. So that kind of a thing.
Yeah, so like normally you would think the pain in the ass neighbor, you're trying to scramble around, and when you see him in the kitchen, you hide the wrestlers and stuff. My theory is that since he was the most talented actor on the show, and everything kind of had to flow through him, you kind of needed him to know the secret because you needed him to be in as much scenes as possible and be as most involved in it. And if he didn't know the secret, you couldn't involve him as much as they did. So that's why I think it was better having him know the secret.
Yeah.
Because the show kind of flowed through him, and it should have.
Yeah.
And if you're hiding stuff from him, you're getting a lot less of him. You get a lot less of Barry if he doesn't know the secret. So
right, I get what you're saying.
So I like
and that. Yeah, I get that there. I mean, I get that there was also another episode where the mother, of course, decided, like we said earlier, the mother decided to take off, go to Europe, and just do whatever she's doing in Europe, basically finding herself. But she decided to call home at one time, and basically she's kind of bragging about what she's doing there, and that doesn't she find like another man out there, and
I know something happened.
Yeah, and it's just like, and the kids want her to come home, basically, you know, and it's just so bizarre. And Lyle Alzado basically kind of no-sold it in a way that his wife's out there with another dude in Europe.
Yeah, and that might be just because he was kind of, he had a lot of presence. He was kind of green as an actor.
Yeah.
So, and again, he didn't have Tony Danza was a baseball player when he was on Taxi, but he had Judd Hirsch to play off of, and there was some talented cast members, but he didn't have Judd Hirsch to play off of.
Right. Well, Judd Hirsch was like a seasoned actor, and you know, as was like I mean, Taxi. Look at the cast that was on Taxi. You had Christopher Lloyd, who was an amazing comedic actor.
Yeah.
Andy Kaufman, obviously, Danny DeVito.
Yeah. So I think Alzado, it's like, I keep it simple, keep it nice and simple, and don't try to get him. He was good. I mean, he was good at what he did, but I don't think you want him trying to do ultra dramatic scenes. So maybe they tried it, and they thought it may be better if he just kind of just moves it along, So that makes sense.
Yeah.
It might have been out of the range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. The show premiered October 88 for one season, totaling 26 episodes. It was created by Ed Self and directed by Alan Ehrlich. The show was connected to the NWA, and Alzado appeared at the Clash of the Champions 2 to discuss and promote the sitcom live there in person on TBS as well. Yeah, that's how you heard about it. I don't know how I heard about it. I think I accidentally came across it because I was, it was on Saturday mornings somewhere. I don't remember exactly. It must have been on after another wrestling show, maybe NWA Pro or Worldwide or whatever. And I think it was I used to get watch every wrestling show I could on Saturday mornings at that time period in the later 80s. So I think it came on around that time period, and that's how I discovered it. And then I probably discovered it towards the end, honestly, not even realizing that it was not even realizing that it had been on a while. And then it was just gone one day, and I was just, that happened a lot. Sometimes they would just cancel shows, and we didn't have the internet to know whatever happened to TV shows. It would just not be there anymore.
TV guide.
Yeah,
literally TV guide. Yeah, you looked at the TV guide, and it was gone.
Yeah.
I remember this channel in Worcester, not Boston, channel 27. It was a kind of a lower tier UPN station or UHF station. I'm sorry, and it was very wrestling friendly.
Yeah,
and they showed a lot of things like Mr. Ed, The Untouchables, lots of pro wrestling,
so lots of classic
Godzilla,
TV and stuff like that, and classic movie type stuff.
They would have Bruce Lee, but not the Bruce Lee, like the people who try to capitalize on his name afterwards, where they were literally doing martial arts fights with gorillas. Things like that. It was a low end UHF station.
Right.
27 Worcester, which is now Univision. And when they converted to Spanish speaking TV, it was the best business move they've ever made, actually.
Really?
Yeah. It just gave that station a huge boost. But yeah, it was a show that the station used to air like International Championship Wrestling, AWA, UWF, NWA, super wrestling friendly. Sometimes they'd have
so
wrestling.
you're talking like the Savoli's ICW when you say International Championship Wrestling,
Yep.
and the NWF, which is like kind of like a bigger indie slash territory that they ran like Philly and New York. Yeah. In UWF.
UWF, Crockett, AWA. Sometimes they would air it 7 days a week, or even sometimes twice a day, like once during dinner time and once like overnight.
Yeah. So it was like a lower tier UHF station. I had a station like that growing up, and it was called crap. I don't even know. It was Channel 28 out of West Haven. It was literally a lower tier UHF station. You couldn't get it on any kind of cable system. You had to have an antenna to get it, and it was
wow.
And I lived when I lived in West Haven. This television station was still around. Couldn't get the station, believe it or not, and I was like less than 5 minutes from it when I lived in a town called Woodbridge, Connecticut. I got the shit perfectly. I would just play with it, but I would watch it. They would run, like you said, the Savoli's, IWCCW. They were running Global on there. They were running, they were running Memphis version of USWA up there on that station.
Okay.
Wow. Smoky Mountain. Yeah, they were in. They were doing that. They were doing whatever NWA territory was the main territory that had TV at the time. I remember when Crockett was running out of the Sportatorium, they were running that there on that station. So I got to see that on there. They were running. I'm trying to think of. There was so much wrestling on that station. They were running it 7 nights a week at one point, and I was just like, "This is the most amazing thing." But then. If it missed it Monday through Friday, all I had to do was wake up early on Saturday morning. They'd run all 5 hours that ran Monday through Friday all in a row Saturday morning. And so, it was pretty. And in the later days, I remember watching it, and that's when I was getting. They were running NWA Wildside. They were running NWA Southwest, which was still running at the time. They were running TNA Explosion when it first, the first few seasons back then. And do you remember when the Savoli's was no longer international or IWCCW, they were running that Ultimate Wrestling thing. Well, they were running. They basically would take a lot of their video library, put it on DVD, and it'd end up in the $5 bin at Walmart. They were taking a lot of that footage that they owned over the years and syndicating it for an hour a week on TV. Brian Webster was hosting the show, and then they were doing some modernized TV tapings under the Ultimate Wrestling name that they would put on those videos. So it was kind of amazing to sit through and watch this stuff. That it'd be great because I'm sitting there. There'd be some random match from ICW in 1985. It'd be like a modern match of Joe Savoli where he looked kind of like older. You know what I mean? So there was that.
So you totally understand. Like even though it was a different part of the country, and a little bit different time, you totally understand the kind of station that Ron LaRoche was on in the Boston area. So that's kind of where we got it from.
I'm literally not too far from that, just a couple hours. We're probably only a couple hours from each other. So we would have
outside different markets though.
Yeah, just different markets. Exactly. So we'd get stuff like that. I mean, even there was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I'm sure you're very familiar with Hartford. Yeah. There was an old UHF station that they were running XPW TV, and it was the only television station that was running XPW. And I used to get a friend that lived up there to tape it for me and then give me the tapes. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that's where I found it. And as we mentioned before, like it didn't do as well as like Learn the Ropes didn't do as well as shows like She's the Sheriff, Small Wonder. I know it wasn't a sitcom, but Star Trek: The Next Generation. I think it was considered more of a lower tier syndicated show because syndication was really big then.
Yes.
I was saying earlier, like the writing made sense and it had flow and you could follow it, there was just no energy.
Yes.
There was no spark. I wasn't watching it was a much better written show than, let's say, like Unhappily Ever After. If you ever seen
Oh
that,
boy. Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
much better written than that. But I guess you probably remember more Unhappily Ever After because it was just so over the top,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said before, like the 1980s were like sitcom heaven. It was like so much. And today we don't get
Much
sitcoms.
scripted.
I don't even think we get
No,
sitcoms.
no.
Is there any sitcoms at all anymore? It's like
There
when I think
are.
about it.
There are. It's funny. I was watching the football game with my son today,
Yeah.
and Donnie Wahlberg has maybe not a sitcom, but a cop show, and Tim
Yeah.
Meadows has a sitcom coming out about the DMV. But I think the networks at CBS. I think they stream those shows now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think they stream it, but it's a lot different when you just turn on your channel and you have, again, like you can watch sitcoms anywhere at that time from like 1950 all the way to 1988.
Yeah.
It has changed, like a 22-minute sitcom with a commercial in between. It's
Yeah.
much different.
It seems that like nowadays with sitcoms that like you said, a lot of them are streaming. Now I take back what I said because like sometimes I'll see some newer ones on Netflix
Mm-hmm.
or like you said, the CW app or something like that. Because a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of the or the Peacock as well.
Peacock, yeah.
They were doing the modernized version of Saved by the Bell for a while.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah, yeah,
I had no idea.
it wasn't very good.
Yeah,
But it was more like, a lot of times now sitcoms aren't necessarily, there's no live audience really. It's just
yeah.
kind of it's just kind of a dry, more like, it's just there's no live audience. It's just
Just go in
straight
the studio
acting.
and
Yeah,
pump
they
it out.
just do stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So, and then, it's very interesting. So sitcoms in that manner are kind of dead in a way because it's like we don't get them that
yeah,
often because I will still sit around at night and watch tons of old sitcoms at night because
mm-hmm.
it's a comfort thing, and some of these shows are
Yeah,
just legendary. You know what I mean? And this is one of
yeah,
them. So I can go to YouTube and find a lot of rare ones that you can't find
yeah.
any streaming services as well.
And keep in mind too, we're talking 1988. Even
Yeah,
if you were on a lower tier TV show on a lower tier network,
yeah,
it was a big deal. Not,
yeah,
I mean, now anybody can get, like we're recording now. We're talking. We're going to put it up, and everybody can see it. But to have any of your work recorded and seen by people in 1988, that was a big deal.
yeah,
Having access to an audience in 1988 was huge.
yeah,
Even a syndicated audience, it was a big
yeah.
deal back then. Not
You'd,
many people.
you'd probably say certain things like the streaming apps where there's things that are exclusive, like sitcoms, to the streaming apps of a major company like NBC, CBS,
Yeah.
the CW, etc. That's probably the
Mm-hmm.
equivalent today of
Mm-hmm.
maybe what syndication was back in the day. Because there's really no syndication. There's very little local TV left around
Mm-hmm.
these days. You know what I mean? Very little. So that's
Yeah.
probably the equivalent of say something like that. I'd say.
Yeah, and I was watching too. I was gonna get your feedback on the theme song because I thought the theme song I thought it was really strong. I thought it was catchy. It stays
Yep.
in your head,
Yeah.
and it very much it was very soppy, but it very much feel good. It very much captured the mood of the show because
Yeah.
that was very soppy, feel good, touchy feely. I
Yeah.
thought they did a great job with the music.
Yeah, I like to sit around and sometimes when I'm watching a lot of these old sitcoms, obviously I remember all the songs, Who's the Boss,
Yeah.
Growing Pains, and of course this song. It's like you find yourself singing along to the songs just out of memory. And even 40 years later, you
Mm-hmm.
still remember the lyrics, even though you probably haven't heard it in about 40 years. You know what I mean? And sing
Yeah.
along. Same thing with Growing Pains and the Who's the Boss song. And of
Yeah.
course, stuff like that. It's kind of amazing. So this is one of those most memorable songs, but how many people watch this show? That's the other thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
Was it just wrestling fans, or I'm sure it
I
wasn't
think
just
so.
TV. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I don't think that non-wrestling fans didn't watch it because it was such an awful show. I just think they put it on and said, "Yeah, there's nothing here."
yeah,
Like I think people got more if you weren't a wrestling fan, you get more bored watching it than
especially when they go
done.
in. Yeah, especially when they go in and actually wrestle. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And people that don't watch wrestling, they're like, I don't know what this is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to watch
yeah,
this. Yeah.
and the characters, like, even though some, like, I think the announcer and the site and the neighbor had really good comedic timing, and they said stuff I was laughing watching. If
Yeah.
you're not if you're not a wrestling fan, are you gonna sit through 15 minutes to get that one kind of little chuckle? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's probably why one of the reasons why it failed, because a lot of those jokes are not going to get over with the masses. You know what I mean?
Right.
With
Hmm.
wrestling fans, they probably are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. You said the show. A lot of the response, people hate this show.
Yeah.
Like, they think it's like the worst show ever.
That a
And
lot of times I talk to people,
hmm
things I read online. Of course,
hmm
obviously, Wrestle Crap gave it a nice article.
yeah, that's weird.
People just don't say a lot of really good things about this show,
Hmm
but I'm trying to think. Maybe like I've watched a lot of sitcoms. I could probably honestly think of a lot worse
hmm
that I grow up watching.
Oh my
Off the
God,
top of
yeah,
my head, I'd have to sit here and think because, like I said, the '80s was a time of sitcoms. There was a ton of them.
yeah.
So it's like I can't think right now off the top of my head, but if I really sat here and think about it, I could think of a lot worse.
And there was a lot more silly stuff going on in wrestling. Like, the next year, the WCW brought in, Norman the Lunatic.
Right,
Um, and
right.
again, like, Norman the Lunatic is a lot more over the top than anything that WCW was doing on this TV show. You
Right.
know,
At this time period, it was still during that crossover period from when
yeah,
Ted Turner had just bought it,
right.
going into the Herd era, I guess you could
Hmm
say, of them trying to catch up with WWF at the time period with all the gimmicky stuff and the children's
hmm
stuff. And this show is probably a product of that as well. Like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But I remember, like, I think one of the actors I didn't like on the show was uh Dick Murdoch, and
Yep.
I think they just gave him too much.
Yeah.
He was really involved in the storyline, and, like, something, they got kicked out and he had to live with them. And I think the wrestlers were a real bright spot on that show. They had a lot of charisma and they knew how to
Yeah.
perform. I think they gave Dick Murdoch just way too much to do. Like,
For that episode that he was like really in. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I could see that.
And I'm glad, I was saying, like, going back to, like, JJ Dillon. I think that JJ Dillon would be much better for that show than Jim Cornette or
Hmm.
even Paulie when he was there, because, as we mentioned, the cast didn't have they weren't ultra charismatic, although some were talented actors. And I think if
Hmm.
you put Jim Cornette or Paulie in for one episode, they just would overrun the cast.
I think I think
They would
both
just
of
roll them
them,
over.
yeah, with their charisma
Yeah,
and their ability to speak very well, I think that they probably would have
yeah.
been two really good characters. And I think JJ Dillon would also be a very good character on the show as well.
See, I liked him better
Yeah,
because he was complimentary,
yeah.
and I think that Paulie or Cornette, they would have been like a bulldozer. I think that, like, they would have just taken not on purpose. I think they would have taken the show over.
Yeah,
And I don't
yeah,
think you want someone to come in for 22 minutes one Saturday and totally just throwing the cast to the side. Where I
yeah.
think JJ Dillon was able to kind of complement the other people, the other
Right.
actors.
So I was able to find out the injuries through typing here in Google about Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Death that I mentioned earlier. I couldn't find them, but now I found
Yeah.
them. So he, of course, like I said earlier, played the Mass Maniac. He did the wrestling parts as the Mass Maniac.
Mm-hmm.
During the filming of the show, he sustained legitimate injuries, including a blown knee. And I guess
Wow.
he got cut that required 39 stitches. And
Wow.
in an interview, he actually said the most painful part was that he was it was the most painful $2,000 that he never got
Mm-hmm.
paid, that he was promised and he never got paid.
I read something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I read that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you,
that's I never thought that I'd really actually read something like that coming from a regular television show. Maybe it
yeah.
was the
Well,
promotion supposed to pay him?
yeah. If it was from, the show was probably in the red.
Yeah,
You know, yeah. I mean, like they probably weren't drawing a profit, and like they probably
Yeah.
the checks probably just weren't going to clear. You know, not
Yeah.
to make any excuses for them, but I don't see that show being very profitable. It probably
Yeah.
it was the production was good enough that they actually put some money into it, and
Hmm.
I think that what they put into was a lot more than they probably got back.
They probably didn't get a good budget from the studio as
Yeah.
well. And they probably,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, were in the red. And the studio probably would not give them any more money going forward.
Yeah.
Especially, I want to know what the actual ratings were. It's like I can't seem to.
Oh,
I don't know, like
yeah.
how many people actually sat down on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon and would watch Learning the Ropes. How many people look
Yeah.
forward to it, and you know what I mean. So
And then I'm wondering too, like how many could you probably know this? How many markets it was in?
yeah, that I don't
Yeah.
see. Like I said, I know that it was, I don't remember the channel that it aired here. I just remember, I think I got, oh boy, I got the NWA Pro or NWA whatever on
Mm-hmm.
WPIX channel 11, I think,
Yep.
on Saturday mornings. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think it might have come on after that. Like that station would actually run like WWF later in the afternoon. You
Right.
know what I mean? So I'm trying to remember. Um, yeah, I don't really see here how many markets it was in, but it was in Canadian produced. It was on CTV, which is Canadian Television
Yeah.
Network, and then it was on syndication in the United States. So yeah, I can't see. I don't have that information,
Yeah. I
unfortunately.
mean, it could have been too many because number one, like wrestling was a niche audience,
Yep.
and they were by far the second biggest audience in the country. So you're almost looking at a niche audience of a niche audience when you're looking at the
Right.
NWA.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like those are hardcore wrestling fans, and then you're looking at how many of the since you are trying to get hardcore wrestling fans, how many people want to kick in the TV set when they see wrestlers on a sitcom.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a subculture of a subculture of a group that wasn't very receptive. So it couldn't have
The
been many.
the other thing is the NWA still had a lot of those old Southern based fans that
Yeah.
had
Yep.
been following them forever. They hadn't done that crossover yet. It wouldn't cross over
No.
the NWA slash WCW. It wouldn't cross over for another
Mm-hmm.
number of years into the
Yep.
mainstream. So, uh,
Yeah.
uh, so there was no way here that it was really going to catch on. You catch my drift because it was
Yeah.
just basically really
Yeah.
southern based, and maybe that using a lot of those stars that were famous a lot in the South and Mid Atlantic area
Yeah.
wasn't really going to work out by any stretch. It seemed.
No. With the exception of probably Flair. And
Yeah,
then
of course.
and
Yeah,
then like
yeah,
and then how many of those fans, like I said, were offended by the show? Like how
yeah.
you get bad reception, just the idea of the show that they just think that is absolute disgrace to wrestling. Um,
Yeah, I think that
you know,
the year prior, and a lot of the kayfabe was still pretty strong at this time.
it
Flair
was.
and Flair and Morton had this gigantic feud, yet here they are on a sitcom. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, just
Yeah.
kind of some of these guys were feuding in the NWA, and then they're on a sitcom
Yeah.
interacting. Like, oh man, what's going on? This also perceived wrestling to not exactly be 100% legitimate as well. It didn't really
Yeah.
say it like flat out, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny too. Someone I read somewhere too that Tully Blanchard, as you mentioned earlier, they recorded this, earlier than they aired it.
yeah,
Tully Blanchard recorded this while he was wrestling for NWA, but then when he appeared on it, he was wrestling for WWF.
he had already gone to the WWF. Yeah,
Yeah,
him and
yeah.
Arn
So
had already gone over.
yeah,
Yeah,
but that what? They're not gonna a low budget show is not gonna like throw that episode in the can. They
yeah,
put the money in, they record it, they're gonna air it.
yeah,
You know, from
yeah,
what I heard, he was already in the WWF when that. I read that recently, just doing the research of the show.
yeah,
That
yeah,
he'd already been in the WWF when that happened. But
yeah.
hey,
So they probably aired it or recorded it months prior, probably
yeah,
even maybe close to a year prior to it actually
yeah,
coming out. Because a lot of these guys, you're looking at it, were in there 87 through 88. I think at some point in 88 that the Rock and Roll Express left, if I remember correctly, and that's when
yeah, something going on.
they went back. I think they went back down south, and they ended up.
Yeah,
they would go. They would end up in
yeah,
the AWA as well. They ended up in
yeah.
Memphis for a while, and if you remember, in Memphis, they broke up and feuded against each other for a brief period in the CWA. And Ricky,
right.
do you remember in '89? I think it was '89. Ricky turned heel in CW.
I remember in WCW in '91 he turned heel.
Yep, it did it also in Memphis probably in like 1989, I think. The funny part is they came back, I think, in was it 90 or 90? Was it 89 they came back, or 80 or 90?
1990.
Yeah, 1990 they came back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then they split in 91 when Robert had that knee injury, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. I'm thinking right now they were at Super Clash 3 the one that you already covered in 1988. Yep. So it's a good chance that Ricky Morton was not with the NWA when that aired, or was on the way out.
Yeah. They wrestle. Who did they wrestle at the at Super Clash? I'm trying to remember.
The Fullers, or either the Fullers or one of the Fullers and Jimmy Golden, but it was some variation of the Stud Stable.
Yeah, it was it was a Stud Stable, some variation. I think they ended up in Continental during that brief period as well. I could be.
That makes sense. And it's weird because they closed out Super Clash 3.
Yeah,
they weren't the main event, but they were the last match. I don't know. Yeah,
I think they did that. They probably closed out that show because there was so much chaos with the main event and Kerry being so fucked up that they ended up having to switch the matches, switch the matches around. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but so there's a good chance that Ricky Morton was not there. At the time at the NW at the time when that aired, but he was he did really well. He looked like he could have had a career as a supporting actor. Him and Garfield.
And again, Ricky Morton, very Southern. He's got that Southern accent. So, and that, not for nothing, there was some television shows like that back in the day, some sitcoms, you know what I mean, that were very Southern. Mama's Family was based in, everybody there. You know what I mean? Which,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
That was one of my favorite shows. Like, I would watch it, and then in reruns, I watched it a lot. Like in the morning when it was on TBS, like for years, it was on years and years and years in the morning, and I'd watch it. So
I'm glad you brought up Mama. I thought of that too. I was watching the shows on YouTube. Mama's Family is way more over the top.
Yeah.
Like that's just one of those shows I thought about a network. And then there was I guess what kind of. Getting towards the end, what do you think about, like, they gave Lyle Alzado a love interest, and I don't think the actress was bad, but I just don't think that clicked.
They seem like two polar opposites. Okay, like he's like this big professional wrestler, football dude, and she's like kind of shorter, skinny, and she's very pretty. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, and she seemed like,
right?
I believe that.
Yeah.
So
it's like that TV show Who's the Boss, or maybe that's what they were.
Exactly. It was like two polar opposites, and she just seemed kind of goofy, the character at times. You know what I mean? Trying to get his attention, and it just seemed a little wonky. But I mean, of course, they had admitted that earlier. The wife had admitted she was doing stuff with another dude in Europe. So I mean, just like there they are. They're both kind of have an interest with somebody else. Just go for that divorce. Why don't you? If while you're in Europe,
right?
So,
I guess like kind of wind out like a big problem. The show I'm thinking of it right now. We'll take a little bit of Who's the Boss. We'll take some wrestling. We'll take a little bit from Growing Pains. We'll take a little bit from Empty Nest, and then we'll just kind of mix it together and make a hit sitcom.
Yeah. Which was the complete opposite result, though. So it was a bomb. So yeah.
There was just nothing. If it watches it, it's not that it's not incoherent. It's very coherent. It's not overly stupid, but there's just nothing there. There's just nothing there.
If they created a second season, I probably would be ecstatic and probably really enjoy it.
I would have watched. I mean, as disappointed as I was because I wanted it to be great, I would have continued. I would have continued to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I continue to watch any wrestling related stuff for years, and I look back on a lot of it and I'm like, how did I continue to watch this? Right?
Yeah.
And so,
well, I just turned on every week hoping it was going to get better, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Over time, though, I think that it also didn't. I think it aged well as well because it's like better than I expected. But it's still pretty kind of bad. Overall, I'd probably it was middle of the road. You know what I mean? Sitcom. Probably give it a rating of a 5, maybe a 4. But it's something that I would probably really, if it was around today, I'd probably still watch it. I would watch it.
I would give it a 3, and just bad.
Yeah.
Not like particularly bad, or just a bad show. I give it a 3. Very boring.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I come down on it.
Yeah.
But I am still here with you.
All right.
So.
No, you're good. Do you have any final comments on this before we wrap it up?
Just check it out. If you are a fan of NWA Classic Wrestling, you'll get something out of it. You can just kind of skim through because it's like 6 hours up. You can watch it on YouTube. So if you like classic wrestling, check it out. And it's really not as bad as people think it is.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'll leave it.
Yeah. I just want there's a reason for YouTube exists, to keep things like this alive, and it's probably why YouTube is one of my favorite platforms. So thank you, whoever uploaded it to YouTube. And Anthony, I want to say thank you for joining me again today. And of course, we're going to have you back again. We're going to have you back again real soon.
Oh, no, thanks for having me. This was a great topic. I'm really glad I kind of went down this rabbit hole and watched again, and I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm really glad I kind of came back and watched it, and I have a lot more respect for the show now than I did 35 years ago. So